Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and this one honestly is not really a surprise, but it's very upsetting. Mexican soldiers question disarm two U.S. Army troops in apparent confusion about border location, incident documents reveal. Two U.S. soldiers sat in an unmarked Chevrolet Tahoe owned by U.S. Customs and Border Protection on the west side of an El Paso County, Texas, colonia known as Las Pampas. It was out April 13th, and the Army sergeant and private had set up a hasty observation post north of the Rio Grande River, but south of the border fence in U.S. territory. The soldiers are members of B Battery, 1st Battalion, 37th Field Artillery Regiment, out of Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington. The unit, part of the Southwest Border Mission President Donald Trump first ordered in October 2018, recently had their deployment extended to September. At roughly 2 p.m. local time, the soldiers observed 5 to 6 individuals dressed in green, pixelated military camouflage uniforms and carrying weapons, which appeared to be XF-05 Wahotl, not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, an assault rifle designed and built for Mexican armed forces. The armed men swiftly approached the U.S. service members, crossing over from the Mexican side of the Rio Grande into the U.S. territory, ordering the soldiers out of their vehicle at gunpoint. What transpired on that afternoon of April 13th near the small town of Clint, Texas, underscores the confusion between the physical location of the border fence and where the geographical U.S.-Mexico border begins and ends. Not quite sure how you can not understand that a river is the border. In Texas, the border fence does not align perfectly with the topography of the precise location of the U.S.-Mexico border. This creates a buffer zone between the actual, often invisible, border and the fence. How in the blue hell is the Rio Grande River invisible? Additionally, while parts of the Texas border with Mexico are fenced, much of it is not because of a variety of issues, including ongoing litigation, private property rights, treaty provisions, and floodplains. Now, you can see here, just a little bit below that red dot, is a drainage area, and just below that is the Rio Grande River. Newsweek obtained a copy of the serious incident report generated 30 minutes after Mexican military members briefly detained and held at gunpoint U.S. military service members after believing the U.S. Army soldiers were in Mexican territory, when in fact the Mexican military had unknowingly crossed into U.S. territory. The report was reviewed by U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Timothy D. Gatlin, commander of 1st Battalion, 37th Field Artillery Regiment, and briefed to U.S. Army Lieutenant General Jeffrey Buchanan, the commanding general of U.S. Army North. The U.S. Army soldiers and the Mexican soldiers moved tactically fast on the unmarked CBP vehicle. Or said the Mexican soldiers moved tactically fast on the unmarked CBP vehicle. The Army soldiers did not have enough reaction time to activate a 911 emergency on their nanoshout, a cell phone-sized two-way satellite GPS tracking device, which also doubles as an emergency beacon when soldiers are in need of additional U.S. military units. Speaking in Spanish, the Mexican soldiers instructed the sergeant and private to move to the front of their vehicle, where they were gently searched, according to the incident report. That's not what happened. I can almost guarantee it. The sergeant's service pistol, the Beretta M9, was moved from his hip by the individuals and thrown inside the unmarked U.S. government vehicle. Do not throw firearms. Period. The U.S. service members reported they did not see any identifiable seals or symbols on the individual's vehicle and could not identify any patches or name tapes on the uniform except for the Mexican flags. Really? That's convenient. The Deputy Director of Public Affairs for NORAD and U.S. Northern Command, John Cornelio, said in a statement to Newsweek on Friday a joint inquiry by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and the Defense Department revealed the gunmen to be Mexican military members who believed the U.S. soldiers were south of the Mexican border. Again, how do you miss the Rio Grande River? After a brief discussion between the soldiers from the two nations, the Mexican military members departed from the area. Well, yeah, they were in the wrong. The U.S. soldiers immediately contacted CBP, who responded quickly. Throughout the incident, the U.S. soldiers followed all established procedures and protocols, the statement said. The U.S. service members reported hearing someone from south of the border yell "Vámonos" in Spanish. You don't have to say that the word "vámonos" is in Spanish. It is a Spanish word. Now, if you want to say you heard them yell "run away" or "flee" in Spanish, which would have been vamonos, or let's go, then that's fine. The Mexican military members went back to the vehicle, described as a dark blue Ford pickup truck with a tactical rack in the back. The Ford pickup truck departed the area, heading westbound on the Mexican levee. The U.S. service members did not see any identifiable seals or symbols on the dark blue pickup truck. After the encounter, the service members notified CBP by CBP radio, and CBP agents responded to the location roughly 10 to 12 minutes after the incident, according to the report. Once on site, the CBP agents backtracked the footprints of the Mexican military members and determined the individuals entered U.S. territory about 50 feet north of the Rio Grande River, said the Army's Serious Incident Report. Members of 1st Battalion, 37th Field Artillery Regiment responded to the location to check on the well-being of their soldiers. Newsweek contacted U.S. Customs and Border Patrol about the April 13th incident, but no reply was returned before publication. Now, I know I've said this a few times, but how do you not recognize that a large river, which typically has very little water in it, is there? I know that the exact center of the Rio Grande is not the U.S.-Mexican border, but the Rio Grande is the demarcation between the U.S. and Mexico, especially on the Texas border. That is why my question of why supposed Mexican military officials, with only the Mexican flag on their uniform, no other identifiable patches or name tapes or anything else on their uniform or their vehicle, approached U.S. military members and disarmed them and held them at gunpoint. This is, to me, Mexico trying to flex its non-existent muscle. I wonder what would happen if next week there was a Marine regiment in that same place. Would those same supposed Mexican soldiers try to approach and disarm, say, 30 Marines? Or would they run in fear when those Marines turned on them and ordered them onto the ground because they have entered United States territory? For a country who is known for imprisoning people at the drop of a hat, such as a woman who was on vacation with her husband, who was put in prison for carrying so-called drugs, being cough drops. Held for a time I do not remember how long, ultimately released and taken back to the airport to fly home. At the airport, the Mexican official with her to make sure she left asked her if she wanted to buy more of the exact same cough drop they said was drugs. Or how about the U.S. Veteran who was traveling south in California with firearms in his vehicle, which is legal, gets to the U.S.-Mexico border and begs to be allowed to back up and not enter Mexico. He is denied this, forced to enter the country, where he's immediately stopped, searched, and arrested, and held for a god-awful amount of time because he was not allowed to say, "I'm not going to enter your country." It's idiotic to me. It honestly is. Mexico is now facing what we have for decades. They have people breaking the barrier between Mexico and Guatemala, assaulting their police officers. And they blame us because we have now told the world, you may not just waltz into our country whenever the hell you feel like it. So, of course, they're saying because we're closing our border, more people are trying to get there and they're causing us trouble, as opposed to doing the logical adult thing and enforcing their own laws. They're quick to arrest Americans they think might have money, but they're quick to let Guatemalans and Hondurans in because, well, they don't have any money, they're not worth it to arrest, and they are even, in some cases, aiding them to get to our border. And then they complain when we don't let them into our country en masse. It needs to stop. I would personally say take enough members of the military to have one every 3 to 4 feet with Humvees with 50 cal chain guns on top, tanks, maybe some Apache helicopters flying around. Basically militarize the border 100% until the wall is complete. Then have signs in every language known to man all over that wall. Do not approach. You will be detained or fired on. But unfortunately, the liberals in our government tell us that it's a right. to enter a foreign country. It is a human right to be granted asylum, not to request it. They tell us that we're evil for not letting them enter our country illegally and to then supposedly look for Border Patrol to surrender to and request asylum. But of course, if there's no Border Patrol agents there, do they just wait? Of course not. They keep pushing north until they're so far inland that it's not until they commit another crime, which many of them do, that they're found to be illegal aliens. And then, of course, well, you can't deport them. This is the only life they know now. But these same people are silent when American citizens are treated like diseased, leprous terrorists for bringing cough drops on vacation. Does anyone else see the hypocrisy and idiocy of this? Anyway, I've talked about this long enough. Make sure to let me know what you think. Just keep the comments civil. Again, we do not learn from argument, we learn from debate. I will not tolerate people insulting and hurling vulgarities and insults at people at all. I'm sorry that I have to run this channel the way I would a freshman high school class, but I will. Until next time, make sure to like and share the video, subscribe, and activate notifications. Until next time, everyone have a wonderful day.